Today, September 13th, a rare cosmic point occurs. Mercury enters the heart of the Sun. It is the moment of the Kazimi, absolute clarity in the midst of chaos. In the middle of the confusion, the delays and the revisions of the retrograde period, the universe offers us a gift, a window of silence, a moment of pure lucidity. Think of the Kazimi as the eye of a hurricane. All around, the storm of reassessment may continue, but for a brief period today, our mind finds its absolute center. The planet of thought, Mercury, aligns so precisely with our star of consciousness, the Sun, that their communication becomes perfect, without static, without noise. It is the mind receiving a direct transmission from the source. The mental energy changes in quality. Dispersion gives way to concentration. Doubt gives way to a single, certain insight. It is as if your mind, which may have been functioning like a flashlight with a diffuse beam, suddenly transforms into a laser beam, capable of cutting through the fog and illuminating a single point with unquestionable precision. This beam of clarity has the power to solve a complex problem, to reveal the next strategic move, or to give you the answer you have been searching for. But this clarity is as powerful as it is fleeting. The Kazimi is not a permanent state, it is a flash, an instant. The purpose here is twofold. First, to understand the nature of this rare opportunity, and second, and more importantly, to learn how to position yourself to receive and capture this insight. Because if you scatter your attention today, the beam may pass without you noticing it. What we will do together is ensure that you are ready. The heart of the Sun. What is the Kazimi? To capture today's beam, we first need to understand its origin. What makes this day so special and different from any other? The answer lies in the complex and powerful relationship between the Sun and Mercury. Think of the Sun as the center of our consciousness, the source of our vitality, our purest I. It is the king, the pulsating heart of our personal system, whose light radiates our identity and our purpose. Mercury, in turn, is our mind, our intellect, the agile messenger who orbits the king, with the function of processing the kingdom's information, communicating, making connections, and translating the sovereign's will into language and strategy. Most of the time, when the messenger Mercury gets too close to the overwhelming brilliance of the Sun's throne, a phenomenon called combustion occurs. Imagine a counselor trying to give a lucid opinion while standing next to a furnace. The heat and light are so intense that his own thoughts get confused, his words get lost. This is what happens to our mind. It gets burned by the force of our ego and our identity. The Sun, thought becomes excessively subjective. Our perspective is obscured by our own brilliance, and we lose the ability to see things with clarity and objectivity. It is a state of too much I and a lack of neutral information. But today the exception happens, a rare, ancient, and almost magical exception. Today, Mercury is not just near the Sun, it is in its heart. The astrological term for this is Kazimi, an ancient word that means precisely that, in the heart of the Sun. The rule is clear. When a planet aligns within less than 1 degree of the Sun, it is no longer burned and becomes immensely strengthened and purified. Our analogy changes completely. The counselor is no longer being overshadowed next to the throne. He has been invited by the king himself to sit on the throne, in his lap, in his heart. He is no longer struggling to be heard. He is speaking with the king's own voice. In this Kazimi state, our mind, Mercury, is no longer a servant of our ego, Sun. On the contrary, it is infused with the pure consciousness and wisdom of the source. Our personal logical mind gains, for a brief moment, direct access to the universal mind, to the field of pure potentiality and clarity. It is the perfect union between the intellect and the soul. Your analogy was perfect. Normally, the sun illuminates and Mercury translates, but there is always a noise, a signal loss in the translation. In the Kazimi, there is no noise. The line is direct. The message is pure. The insight that arrives during a Kazimi does not feel like a good thought or a smart idea. It feels like a fundamental truth, an axiomatic revelation. It is the difference between reading a report about the king's intention and hearing the intention directly from his mouth. The clarity that this alignment offers is absolute, because our mind for an instant ceases to be just our mind. It becomes a channel for a much greater wisdom. This is the mechanism behind today's power. It is a momentary fusion that gives us access to a clarity that, on normal days, would take us months or years to achieve. The beam of clarity, how the energy manifests. Now that we understand the celestial mechanics of the Kazimi, the question becomes personal and immediate. How does this energy manifest in us? How does it feel in practice to have our mind in the heart of the sun? The experience is subtle, but unmistakable, and its first symptom is silence. Our mind, in its normal state, is a noisy place. It is a constant flow of thoughts, our worries, to-do lists, memories, internal dialogues, a mental static that accompanies us from the moment we wake up until the moment we sleep. The first effect of the Kazimi is that, for an instant, this noise ceases. It may be for a second or for a minute, but there is a sudden and inexplicable pause in the internal monologue. It is as if the universe has pressed the mute button on our anxiety and our dispersion. And it is in this rare and precious silence that the second symptom can occur. It is what we can call a clean download. This is the heart of the Kazimi experience. An insight is not a thought you create. It is information you receive. It is not the result of a long process of reasoning, of pros and cons. It is a solution, an idea, or a truth that arrives in your consciousness instantly, complete, and perfectly formed. Imagine your mind as a computer. A normal thought is like typing a text, word by word. The Kazimi insight is like a file that suddenly appears on your screen coming from an unknown source, already complete, formatted, and ready to use. Its most striking feature is its elegance and simplicity. Often, the clarity it brings is about something that has been tormenting us for months, and the solution is so obvious in retrospect that we wonder how we didn't see it before. This download has a powerful effect. It crystallizes what was nebulous. Think of a situation in your life that feels confusing, complex, like a dense fog. It could be a career decision with countless variables, a relationship with an ambiguous dynamic, a creative project that has lost its way. You think and rethink, but the confusion only seems to increase. The Kazimi beam acts on this fog like a sudden cold that transforms the vapor into perfect and distinct ice crystals. A single piece of information, a single change of perspective that arrives in this download, and suddenly the entire situation reorganizes itself into an image of crystalline clarity. The doubt disappears, replaced by a sharp understanding of what needs to be done. What was a complex problem reveals itself to be a simple choice. And this clarity is accompanied by an unmistakable feeling of absolute certainty. It is not the arrogance of the ego that says, "I am right." It is the deep calm of the soul that says, "This is true." The Kazimi insight resonates not just in your mind, but in your body. You feel it in your bones, in your stomach. There is no need to ask for a second opinion, to seek external validation. The truth of the message is self-evident. This is the great gift of the day. a moment of perfect alignment between your mind, your intuition, and universal consciousness itself, which manifests as a single, unquestionable beam of clarity. Your only job is to be quiet enough to receive it. The reality filter, the practical effect of the insight, the beam of clarity from the Kazimi, that clean download of pure information, is not a gift to be admired and kept on a shelf. Its nature is inherently practical. Its function is to be a tool, a filter through which we can, for a brief moment, observe our life with the objectivity of a higher consciousness. This insight does not arrive to entertain us. It arrives to equip us for action, or rather, for a strategic decision. Absolute clarity has an immediate effect. It shows us, without a shadow of a doubt, the difference between what is essential and what is superfluous, between what nourishes us and what drains us. The practical effect of the Kazimi is to transform us, for one day, into a master strategist of our own life. The first function of this reality filter is to reveal waste. With the intense light of the Kazimi illuminating our mind, we suddenly become able to see all the energy leaks in our existence. These are the areas where we invest our time, our attention, and our life force without a corresponding return. Think about it. It could be that work project in which you invest extra hours, but which today's insight reveals will never lead to the growth you desire. It could be that relationship in which you invest enormous emotional energy to keep it afloat, but which today's clarity shows you that the reciprocity is an illusion. It could be a daily habit, like spending hours on social media, that you justified as rest, but which today's beam of lucidity exposes as pure and simple escapism. The Kazimi is relentless in its honesty. It no longer allows us our own excuses. It shows us the chart of our life and points with a red laser to all the areas that are in the red, that represent an energy deficit. Once the waste is revealed, the second function of the filter comes into play, to give us the authority to make the strategic cut. This cut is different from the emotional and cathartic cut of an eclipse. The Kazimi cut is logical, cold, and efficient. It is the decision of a CEO who, looking at the data, realizes that a department is running at a loss and decides pragmatically and immediately to shut it down to protect the health of the company as a whole. The clarity that the insight gives us removes the emotional hesitation. The decision to stop investing energy in the dead-end project, or to have the final conversation to redefine the terms of a draining relationship, ceases to be a drama and becomes an operational necessity. The mind, infused with the wisdom of the sun, understands that continuing to invest in what doesn't work is the real failure. The cut here is not an act of anger. It is an act of supreme intelligence and self-preservation. But the Kazimi filter does not only serve to eliminate. Its most powerful function is to confirm the right path. While it illuminates what needs to be cut, it also illuminates with the same intensity that in which we should bet everything. If you were in doubt about a project, about a relationship, about a life change, the Kazimi insight can arrive as a resounding confirmation. It is the sudden clarity of yes, this is it. It is the unquestionable validation that silences all the voices of doubt. This is the moment when your mind and your soul align and give you the green light you were waiting for. The energy you save by cutting what doesn't work is now released to be reinvested with total confidence in what the insight has confirmed as being your true path. The Kazimi, therefore, is not just an eliminator of excesses. It is, above all, a director of focus, the compass that, in a single brilliant instant, points to your true north, the trap of dispersion, the day's alert. Now that we understand the immense power and clarity that the Kazimi offers, we arrive at its most crucial and challenging characteristic, its fleeting nature. The beam of cosmic clarity is not a permanent state. It is not a new mental configuration that settles in and stays. Think of it as a lightning flash that, in an instant, illuminates the entire landscape, revealing every detail with an impossible sharpness, and the next second disappears, leaving us in the half-light once again. It is a flash that only lasts an instant. The portal to the heart of the sun is open for a very brief period. The transmission of the message is pure, but it is fast. And this leads us to the biggest trap of today, dispersion. The number one enemy of the Kazimi insight is a scattered and noisy mind. We live in a world that trains us for distraction. The constant flow of notifications, multitasking as the norm, the infinite scroll on social media, the conversations full of noise and irrelevant information. All of this creates a constant mental static. This static, on normal days, already hinders our concentration. On a Kazimi day, it is fatal to the process. The clean download we spoke of requires a clear line, an open channel. Dispersion and external noise congest that line, making it impossible for the pure and subtle signal of your intuition to reach your consciousness. If your mind is busy processing 100 small, useless pieces of information, it will not have the available capacity to receive the one great piece of information that truly matters. Therefore, the most practical and most important advice for today is a radical invitation to mindfulness. Your task is, as much as possible, to deliberately create pockets of silence throughout your day. This does not require you to retreat to a mountain to meditate. It requires small, conscious choices. Turn off your phone's notifications for a few hours. Close the dozens of tabs on your browser and work on one single task at a time. Postpone that conversation that you know will be draining or full of drama for another day. Instead of having lunch while watching the news, eat in silence, paying attention to your food. Take a short 5-minute walk without listening to music, just observing what is around you. Each of these small acts is a way of clearing the line, of calibrating your antenna so that it is ready to receive the transmission. The clarity of the Kazimi does not need to be forced. It will arrive, but it needs an empty space to be able to land. By choosing quietness over noise and focus over multitasking, you are actively creating this space. You are telling the universe, I am here. I am listening. I am ready to receive. Remember, the universe will send the beam. Your only responsibility is to ensure that you are not looking in the opposite direction when it arrives. The perfect action. How to capture the lightning. You have prepared the ground, you created the silence, calmed the mind, and placed yourself in a state of mindfulness. And then it arrives. The flash, the beam of clarity that illuminates everything. The answer you were looking for, the solution to the problem, the truth about your next step, all of it crystallizes in your mind in a single perfect instant of knowing. And now what? What is the perfect action to take in this sacred moment to ensure that this cosmic gift does not dissipate back into the ether? The answer is crucial and defines the success of all your preparation. The wisdom of the Kazimi is not just in receiving the insight, but in knowing how to anchor it. The first part of the instruction is what you should not do. It is not a day for talking too much. Our tendency, when we have an epiphany, is to share it immediately. We want to tell someone, to validate our discovery, to translate the excitement into words. Today, this impulse is a trap. The Kazimi insight is like a photograph being developed in a dark room. It is a delicate image, which is still settling. To speak about it prematurely is like opening the door of the dark room and letting the light of the outside world in. The opinions, the doubts, and even the well-intentioned skepticism of others or of your own logical mind trying to explain can contaminate the purity of the message. The spoken word dissipates the energy. Today, your insight is a sacred secret between you and the heart of the sun. Protect it. The perfect action, then, is not that of speech, but that of writing. Your job today is to write, to note down, to crystallize the ideas. The act of writing is the bridge between the ethereal world of inspiration and the concrete world of matter. It is the alchemical gesture that transforms light into form. When the beam of clarity hits you, your first and only action should be to grab a notebook and a pen, or to open a blank document. And then, write. Do not try to embellish or edit. Capture the message in its rawest form, with the exact words that came to your mind. If it is an image, draw it. If it is a plan, list the steps. What you are doing is anchoring the lightning to the earth. By doing this, you transform the ephemeral into the permanent. The flash, which by nature is fleeting, becomes an artifact. The revelation, which could be forgotten in the midst of tomorrow's noise, becomes a document. Your intuition, which spoke in an instant, leaves a record that you can consult forever. The act of writing is what transforms the flash into a compass. It is what allows you to capture lightning in a bottle. The page before you becomes the map for your next chapter. A map drawn not by your anxious mind, but by the purest cosmic clarity. Just remember one final distinction. Today's action is to crystallize, not to execute. Today, you write down the plan. You record the decision. Tomorrow, when the intensity of the Kazimi has passed, and you can look at your notes with a calmer, more integrated mind, will be the time to decide what first step to take. Today's action is sacred, and it is only one: to listen to the heart of the sun and have the discipline to write what it dictates to you. Today's journey was about an instant of silence in the midst of noise, an instant of focus in the midst of dispersion, an instant of pure clarity in the midst of confusion. You have understood the rare nature of this Kazimi. You have learned to create the internal space to receive it, and most importantly, you have received the tool to capture it, the act of recording your truth. The clarity you access today is more than a good thought. It is a piece of cosmic intelligence, a pure datum delivered directly to you from the source of consciousness. Now, the final instruction: remember this: the Kazimi does not repeat. This window of opportunity is singular. The insight it offers is your strategic advantage for the cycle that follows. If the beam crosses your path today, do not ignore it. Honor it with your attention and with the act of recording it. Do this, and it will become more than a memory. It is the compass that guides the rest of September. If you have received your flash of clarity, or if you commit to remaining attentive to capture it, anchor that intention. Like this video, share it with someone who needs a moment of focus, and declare in the comments the gift that this Kazimi offers you with the phrase that defines this day. I wrote it down. And don't forget to subscribe, so we can continue to decipher these cosmic moments together and use their wisdom to our advantage.